All right, lesson two and last lesson on William James. Another great quote by James: action may not bring happiness, but there is no happiness without action. Yeah, you got to do something. Like if you just sitting around and waiting for good things to happen to you, that's not going to work great. You're not going to get happy by that. You've got to do something. But that at the same time, sometimes doing something doesn't bring happiness, but you got to do something to get happiness. It's just great. I like those good quotes, by these psychologists. All right, William James, let's finish up like what he is all about. So he focused on the wholeness of an event. Remember the difference between him and Wundt. Wundt wanted to break consciousness down into little pieces and create this periodic table. James wants to look at the wholeness of consciousness, the wholeness of an event, and the influence. Eventually, this leads to the influence of environment on behavior. The influence of environment on behavior. And you can't stress enough what environment is the most important as you're growing up. And of course, that's the environment that you have at home. And that influences you majorly. We know from research that if you have someone who graduates from college, the chance that their family has importance of education, that education is important to that family, that makes sense, right? I mean, and by the way, I come from a family where education wasn't that important and I got a college degree. So, like, that's not to say that if you're a family, it doesn't feel education's important, that you can't go to college, because certainly you can, but you're overcoming that. But if you come from family where, like, your parents are like, you got to go to school, you got to do well, we got a college savings account, we want you to college, like, that's an advantage. Like, that's huge. Your environment is kind of helping you move towards success. So the environment you grow up in is huge, and then that affects how you behave. Um, that doesn't mean you don't have choice. That doesn't mean you don't have agency. Agency means like your ability to kind of make choices in life. That doesn't mean you don't have that. It's just that you're influenced by your environment in a major way. And James is really kind of the first person who gets at that. That like we got to look at the wholeness of an event, the wholeness of a person, and like how does environment influence them and their behavior. He coined a phrase and sometimes you'll hear in society called stream of consciousness. Stream of consciousness, which is the flow of thoughts and feelings in our mind. And he felt you could really understand consciousness of a person if you could let them develop a stream of consciousness. So, what did he mean by that? Well, he wrote about it in a book called Great Men and Their Environment, and was getting at, and he looked at a bunch of great men and why they became great, and looking at their environment about like how did they grow up, and how did their parents influence them. And James said this: consciousness then does not appear to itself chopped up into bits. It is nothing jointed. It flows. A river or a stream are the metaphors by which it is most naturally described. In talking of it hereafter, let us call it the stream of thought, of consciousness, or of subjective life. And so he wrote about that, and instead this stream of consciousness is a way that we can really understand like why someone acts. And so he actually did experiments with people where he just wanted them to talk and talk, and through that talking he would understand better why they behaved a certain way, which by the way is kind of what happens in therapy. Like if you go, like they try to get you going, asking you questions, and you just kind of, you have a stream of consciousness, and suppose you're supposed to learn all sorts of things from that. By the way, just as a joke, just as a little cartoon joke here, a little psychology joke, here's a stream. This is the stream of consciousness. Why? Because look at what the stream is saying. Hey, I am self-aware. I wonder where I'm flowing to. And I should stop babbling. Thank you. All right, I'll stop there. All right, stream of conscious. Another, what does it mean? Another stylized way of thinking out loud. The term stream of consciousness is very similar to an interior monologues, like what you're saying in your head, and is used interchangeably by some. But this refers most specifically to a first-person narrative which mimics the jumble of thoughts, emotions, and memories passing through the character's mind. So like things that you're thinking. And by the way, in the context of this, they're using it in the context of stream of consciousness of a character in a novel. But it's the same idea that James had, which was if you could, get someone thinking a lot and having a stream of consciousness, that you could really learn more about why they behave the way they do. So James said that psychologists should look for the environmental causes of behavior and the mental processes involved. Just to share a personal story, like in high school, especially my first 2 years of high school, uh, I didn't do so hot in school. Like I was frankly kind of a hot mess, and my behavior, I think, at school was rather obnoxious. Some may say that hasn't changed, but it was rather obnoxious, and I was could be disruptive in a class. And if you sat down, and I didn't really study a whole lot and didn't try very hard, and if someone sat down and tried to figure out like why Ingerson acted the way he did, and frankly I don't think many people did or anybody did, they would have found out, oh, wait a second, his mom is in a mental institution, in and out of mental institutions through his first 2 years of high school, and that's not a great situation. And parents were going through a very, very nasty divorce, along with all kinds of disruptions in his life. So like you could look back and go, I get it. That's why he has a lot of attention seeking behavior, not to mention his own personality. But, there's a lot that's being exacerbated by that. So when you look at environmental cause of behavior, like this is something that we can look at. And if you're self reflective, you can understand what's driving you and probably improve future behavior. This emphasis on the causes and consequences of behavior has influenced contemporary psychology. All right. Sorry for little sidebar stories, but it's psychology and I enjoy doing that. So, and it's my class, so I can kind of do that. It's the joy of teaching. All right. See you guys later. Bye.